as soon as one thought pops in, it flies away, and because a different one just took its place.
The problem is I remember the things that I forgot in the most inconvenient times.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Like,
Yes.
It's like I don't have any way to record this, and then 10 minutes later I'm like,
dang it.
there was something
Or it's
very
3 in the
important.
morning, you wake up, you're staring at the ceiling, it pops in your head, and I'm like, why the fuck now? Like, what am I supposed to do right now? Like, it's 3 in the morning, I want to sleep.
Yeah. Why now?
I used to keep a pad of paper by the bed. I'm not great about doing that anymore.
Yeah, it's likewise. I did this. So I had, before I went to this, I had, like the tangible hardbound notebooks, and then had multiple of those, which I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm carrying 3 of them. So that's when I went to this, but I don't have this by the nightstand because I'd be that guy that at 3 in the morning grabs it, fumbles it, drops it, cracks it.
Wakes Cindy up. It's all over.
Yeah.
Just
all right. Perfect. So, question and a statement. The first question. See, here we go. I
First
told you I
statement
was
or
going to forget it.
Statement or
Let's
question?
start with the question.
Todd?
Here's the question. The podcast that you guys have.
Yeah.
So centered around Ted Lasso, leadership lessons within those episodes.
Yeah.
What happens now with the season?
Yeah,
or not the season, but the series.
Yeah, so we're actually on hiatus right now, waiting to see whether the show spins off. So our guess is that they're gonna, knock on wood, indeed.
Right.
My guess is they're gonna spin off the women's team.
Okay.
Do you remember that from the very, very end? They show Keely passing over a plan for a women's club.
Yep.
So I think that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
So we'll just wait and see if it still ends up being a show about leadership. Maybe we'll pick it back up.
They only had 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
Like, I'm not in that industry, but like, come on. I mean, dude, you're up here. I get the idea of exiting while you're on a high, but.
My understanding is that they had a very clear picture of exactly what they wanted the story to be and really stuck to it despite that it went crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I respect that. Like, I miss the show. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I have a podcast about it. But I get that.
Yeah.
And I would much rather have had them walk away with really, I think, the best finale that has ever been made in television.
It's better than it being a lot of really good TV shows that just drag it out a couple seasons too long.
That's fair. Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather them
know. I mean, if they say, well, we're going to go 2 more seasons because we're up here, you don't know, are those 2 seasons going to be great? Or are they going to just crash
Well,
over?
they finished right before the writer's strike, so, they knew what they were doing, I guess.
Yeah. So my statement is, when I'm flipping through Instagram, I have some leadership folks. As soon as you follow one, all of a sudden, like 5
Right, exactly. We all follow.
It's the algorithm.
Yeah, we travel
we
together.
needed a mattress, and I did a Google search on mattress. Now every other ad is about mattresses of brands I've never heard of in my life. Anyway,
there's too many mattress
clearly,
brands.
and they all just half
that's
of
a
them
whole
look
nother
identical.
topic, but
like the wording of the ad is almost identical, yet it's a different brand. Like, is the same company own 5 different?
It's all the same manufacturer in the back end, just different front end brands.
We're not talking about mattresses today.
No.
But
different podcast.
That's weird. The statement was, so Ted Lasso, or the Jason Sudeikis, is it Sudeikis?
Sudeikis, I think is how you
mispronounced
say
it.
it.
Sorry, Jason.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, big fan of the podcast.
Yeah, big fan.
They'll pull different clips from episodes of Ted Lasso that he says, and they're like, I mean, his lines are perfect,
right?
And there's some leadership clips in those, but they're 4 minutes long, and I'm like, or something. That's a little exaggerated, but I'm like, if I could remember that line, because it was so perfect, but it's not just a little 5-word quote. It's multiple sentences, but. Whoever I don't know if he writes that or a couple people write. Whoever writes most of that is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. I know he writes a lot. Actually, Roy is one of the writers.
Okay.
Yep. Brent Goldstein.
Mm-hmm.
I think Beard is also a writer.
I believe so. Yeah.
They're killer, and like Brene Brown has had them on her podcast.
Has she? Okay.
I think a lot of it was intentional, like the leadership lessons being there. I think was intentional. They did that on purpose. So thanks for that. That was really helpful for those of us in the industry.
Well, so I'll put you on a spot here. How about this before we get rolling? If you had to summarize all the different leadership lessons that you have pulled from that series, what is one of them that really stands out to you?
Yeah, there's a really great line, and I believe the last episode, the last Diamond Dogs meeting that they have in the office, where Nate is back and Higgins is there.
Okay.
And Roy is talking about, he's just like beside himself about how he is just still him. Like he's been trying to do all this growth and he's still him. Mm-hmm. And Higgins has this line that's all we can ever do is ask for help and move towards better. And
Fair
if
point.
you're a leader and you are approaching things with that lens, you're going to be fine.
Right.
Ask for help, move towards better. That's it.
How many leaders are afraid to ask for help?
Almost all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the nuggets that has really stuck.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it talks about going down the path of self-awareness. We talked about this in a different episode where a former CEO of a big company here in town, I don't know, either high school or college age, and I was working at a frozen yogurt store with my mom's, and he came up as a customer, and I don't remember how the topic came up, but he's probably asking like, what I was doing for school or whatever. Anyway, somehow he basically said, look, I'm not an accounting or finance person. It's kind of a weird statement of a CEO of a public company to say. He goes, but I know that that's not my thing, so I surround myself with people who are really good at that stuff. I'm like, good to know.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, he's probably perfect at everything.
No.
No one is.
Yeah.
No, and it's the leaders who know that and do exactly what he does that are successful, right? You have to know what you're really great at. You have to know what you're really terrible at, and you have to count for that. And you have to be really upfront with people about what those things are.
Yep.
And the people who do those the best, those are the leaders that we read books about. That's a general rule.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that. That's a great lead in.
Yeah.
Jury's still out as whether I'm very good at podcasts.
Oh, come on.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, let's get rolling.
Okay.
Is this thing on? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank you all for joining us from wherever you guys get your podcasts, or if you're watching us on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you for doing so. If you are on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel and you haven't hit the subscribe button, be a leader. Click that button, click the little notification bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes like this one drop. We would greatly appreciate it. It won't cost you a dime. You don't have to watch another episode of Ted Lasso if you don't want to, but if you do, go for it. All right, today we are joined by Miss Beth Rashleigh. Beth, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I did pronounce the last name correctly.
You did. You got it. It's perfect. It's like Ashley with an R in front of it.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Why don't you do us a favor and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I am I think the thing I always lead with is I'm a ginormous leadership nerd and lifelong learner. Like I'm just really curious and passionate about things that I'm interested in. I go deep. I want to understand all of it. I own my own company. I'm the president of Rashleigh Consulting. We do leadership coaching and consulting and training, mostly in the Indianapolis area. Okay. Do have a few clients out of state. And I've been doing that for 4 years, but I've worked in the leadership development space for, almost 20 years, which is a little bit depressing. So we won't go into a ton of details, but born and raised in Indy. I left for about 8 years and lived in the Washington, D.C. area. Okay. Where the weird thing, you know how sometimes you'll be somewhere and they'll be like, tell us a fun fact.
Yeah.
The 8 years that I was in D.C., I worked for the CIA.
Okay.
Which is a weird thing that not a lot of people have on their resume. So that's always my fun
personally,
fact.
I think that's cool as shit.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, it is a cool thing that I got to do. So, but I did what I always tell people, I did a really boring job at a really cool place.
So here's my first, two questions. Born and raised in Indy. Where did you go to high school?
I went to New Pal.
New Pal. Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
What year did you graduate? You're
95.
younger than I am. Yeah, you're younger than I am. Okay.
Yeah, 95.
We lost my senior year in high school. We lost to New Pal and football.
They're pretty good at football.
Yeah. That's back when New Pal was in our same class.
Yeah.
My high school it's grown a little bit, but it's more or less the same size as it was way back then. New Pal has obviously grown tremendously. Yeah. I went to Chittard.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're pretty much the same size. Anyway.
Yeah.
Off topic.
Yeah. No.
CIA did you have a job that you can actually share with us what you did or not so much?
No, I can do like high level. Like I can't tell you lots and lots of details, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I did varying things. So much like the military, when you work in the intelligence community, you move jobs a lot. Like they kind of rotate you through different positions. Yep. So everything I did there, with one exception, was training related. So I started my career there teaching people how to properly store electronic records. So like an email, obviously when you work for the government, sometimes those things can be like discoverable by both citizens and legal entities. So anyway, there are all these procedures. So I taught people how to do that. I taught people how to properly classify documents for a while.
Okay.
And then I finally got picked up into the leadership space. So I started doing leadership training there. And that's what I was doing when I left.
So that's how you got into leadership.
Yeah. Okay. I had an HR background before that, before I went to work for the CIA, and they liked that. Especially in the leadership space, that's a skill set that's helpful. And
Wow, you're starting to pull the leadership nerd out of me all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I know Hollywood is Hollywood, and folks actually in the CIA might look at some of those movies and say, like Tom Clancy movies, and be like, or hit the books that turn into movies and be like, yeah, that's total
it's
Hollywood.
Not right.
Yeah.
I
pulling
liked your
from some of
critique.
that and what you said, I'm like, oh my God, that would be so interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I have had really cool students in my classroom, like people who are doing really cool jobs coming in for leadership training. And that was a huge privilege. I was a post 9/11 hire. So we were in the middle of, the war with Afghanistan and Iraq when I started.
Right.
There was a lot to be like patriotic about when I started.
Yeah, so like Zero Dark 30 is a movie I've probably watched.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times. And it's also one of those where, it's midnight, should be turning everything off, going to sleep.
Yeah.
And I decided to channel surf, and then I come across it. It's got, an hour and a half left. I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
You got me.
When I watch that, again, don't know if that's pretty far-fetched or if there's some reality to it, but when you're in that organization and you have to make some very big decisions based on as much intelligence as you have, but it's not foolproof.
Yeah.
Like you're guesstimating as best you can.
Yeah.
That's the whole leadership stuff. I think could play a huge role with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of, I would say more of a lens towards ethics in leadership there than probably anywhere else I've been since, right? Like that we have to look at things through an ethical lens and a leadership lens, right?
Which could be difficult at times,
very, very
depending
hard
on the topic.
Right. And who gets to decide what's right or wrong? Like that's a hard call sometimes. So
rules of engagement to some extent, but those probably get bent a little bit.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Super interesting stuff. What I'll tell you in general is if you watch CIA shows, anytime you see somebody in a movie on a cell phone in a CIA building, that's when you know they didn't do any research. You're not allowed to have your cell phone. You have to leave it in the car. You can't even have it on, which was really hard. Like when my son was little.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a great way for people to get a hold of you
when you're
So
you go into the black box and you come out a few hours later.
So emergencies were like a huge thing. I had like whole systems, especially when I was teaching and in a classroom. So not at my desk. You can't reach me on my desk phone either.
Yeah.
I had whole systems for call this person and see if they're at their desk and they can come get me. It's a different kind of lifestyle. And I remember when I left and started working in corporate, like the first I walked by somebody who had like a camera attached to a computer and was like downloading full, pictures off of it. My first thought was like, oh my God, there's a security violation. There's a security violation.
Who do I talk to?
Because you don't get to attach stuff to a computer. Like it's all very close. So I had a lot of like just mental retraining to do when I got out. Yeah.
That's why I do know two local individuals who do business with the government, and I was aware of the cell phone thing because they told me like, when we go there to visit, they actually have clearance to get in, but like, once they're in there,
you're in.
They're off the.
Some
off
areas
the map.
have like lockers for you to leave stuff in case you don't have a car, but you don't get to have it. So
that's wild.
Hope you don't need it.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Thing.
That's right. Well,
that's cool. All right. So New Pal High School, went to Ball State for undergrad, right?
Yeah.
Degree.
Communication studies.
Communication studies. Okay. It was what was your first job out of Ball State?
I was a nurse recruiter at Hendricks Regional.
Okay.
That was my first job out of college.
Interesting.
Yep. I have weirdly mostly worked in healthcare.
Okay.
Except for the 8 years I was at the CIA.
Right. So that's an interesting transition.
Yeah.
So I worked at Hendricks, then Hancock Memorial. Then I moved to DC. I came back and I worked for a company called TriMedics.
Okay.
Which is a, think of clinical engineering as like the MRI machine, who fixes it, who makes sure it's like maintained properly. Mm-hmm. TriMedics is a company that like comes into hospitals and helps companies do that. So I did all of their leadership development. And then I went to Community Health, which is a big system here in Indy, and did all of their leadership development.
Cool.
And they're still a client I still do a lot of work with.
Okay.
Nice.
Good. Yeah. You ever work with Kyle Fisher?
Yeah, I know Kyle well. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I always forget Kyle's on the board.
He was.
He's not
rolled off now, but still very involved.
Yeah,
they're,
Kyle's a good
very
guy.
good supporters.
Yep.
So, at what point did you say, okay, we're gonna do our own thing?
So ironically, I officially left Community November of 2019, which was can I just say stellar timing for starting a new business. Pre-pandemic. But the thing that really, I had always felt the pull. In fact, when we moved back here from DC, I thought maybe I'll start my own company at that point. Okay. But I didn't have the network here anymore. You know, I'd been gone for 8 years. I just didn't feel like I was very plugged into what was happening here. So I decided to get a job somewhere and just start things that way. And had multiple times felt the pull. And Community was really such a cool job for me. I loved the job. I had a great boss. Community is a really cool place to work just in general. I was leading really a dream team, and I still felt the pull. Okay. And I thought, that's information, right? If I'm in the perfect job and I still feel like this is something I need to do, that's probably something I need to do. So I had kind of started ramping myself up. And then a good friend at Community actually got diagnosed with cancer. Pretty rough diagnosis at the beginning. She's fine. But she's 2 years older than me. And I thought, why do we all walk around like we have all of this time? You just never know. Yeah. And she told me on a Sunday, I went in and gave my notice on Tuesday because it was a holiday weekend.
Okay.
I gave 2 months notice and, had lots of stuff to wrap up. But that was really the push that shoved me out on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
That was November of 19?
2019.
Okay. Fast forward 5 months-ish. It's almost St. Patty's Day, and the green beer's hitting the fan.
Indeed.
Was that, we're kind of getting off the topic a little bit, but I like this stuff. Was the pandemic a good thing or a bad thing for your business?
It was bad.
Really?
It was definitely bad. I had a really good first year setup of in-person team buildings and trainings that went out the window.
Yeah.
And a lot of that didn't convert to virtual because especially I do a lot of team building work, and that's just not as fun to do if you're not all together.
Say one-on-one, you could probably get away with it, but team building, not so much.
No, you just can't. And I definitely pivoted to some different things. I did some more consulting work. You piece stuff together and try to make it happen, but it was definitely rough. And I feel like this year is my first year I've actually been able to run the business I thought I was building.
Okay, cool.
Because it's just been, every year has been a little different. Right. And I think the pandemic changed a lot of things for companies and the way we think about things. And that certainly affected my business and a lot of my peers. I know I haven't been alone in that struggle. So
2023 has been a good year then.
Yeah, 2023.
Happy, pumped.
Yeah, it's been a good year.
She's living up to the LFG in 23.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's good.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now we just come up with our tagline, if you will, call it whatever you want, for 24. It's now do more in 24.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
And it rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
that's
good.
a big component.
Yeah, that's important for a good motto. It needs to rhyme.
Yeah. It has to rhyme very high
or
level.
it has to be alliterative, one or the other.
Yeah. The really the more I think about it, though, it's going to be challenging because I'm not an economist, but they were all expecting the latter half of 23 things would start really taking a dive, and it hasn't so much.
Yeah.
It's been a little spotty. It's starting to kind of do this. Now they pushed it off into 24. So here I'm saying, okay, do more in 24. And if we do have a technical recession or something happens where things do slow down, it's going to be more of a challenge for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
that's the fun of being a business owner, right? Trying to figure that stuff out.
My magic 8-ball sometimes fails me.
No, mine's been really lousy. Here's a funny thing I said to myself when I started the business is I was like, to pep talk myself into it. I was like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? If it's a disaster, you'll go find another job. You're very employable. Okay.
It's true.
Well, no, not in 2021. If I had wanted to go back, who was hiring a leadership development manager at that point? Nobody. So that was a little bit naive.
The answer is you're probably correct. I could argue that maybe they should because everyone was a little starting to go cuckoo and trying to figure out, oh my God, now what do we do? And you could really argue now would be a great time to have a sounding board and to help guide people through this.
Yeah. But training in general is almost always the first thing that goes. Yeah. Like if times get rough, that's what they cut. Yeah. And I get that. It feels extra. It's not, but it feels extra.
Right.
Yeah. It feels like an easier cut. So
that's another conversation.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, Beth, what is your cancer story?
Yeah. So I, like everybody, have been touched by cancer in a million ways. Yeah. I think, we all know somebody who's fought it. Our most recent, experience with cancer. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer in October of 2021. Is that right? Yeah, 2021.
Okay.
And she went through mastectomy, chemo, radiation at the age of 79, which is, that's tough. That's a tough recovery, I think, for anybody. I think the older you are, I think the more it affects you.
Yeah.
She's doing well. She's back at home living on her own and is cancer-free right now. So fingers crossed that sticks. The way that, the biggest impact to us, other than obviously just, caring and loving for somebody who is going through that, is that because particularly of her chemo treatment, she was unable to live alone anymore.
Okay.
She got to the point where she caught basically strep throat, I think on treatment 3 of chemo, which for her was I never remember what it's called, but it's the red one, the really hard one.
Yeah.
I can never remember what it's called. But she did 4 doses of that at the beginning, and then they switched to something different.
Okay.
So while she was going through the really tough one, it just knocks out, your entire immune system. So she got strep throat somehow, we think probably from a nurse, and ended up in the hospital because she just couldn't fight it at all.
Yeah.
Got really weak. She was already pretty weak anyway, but a couple weeks in the hospital didn't help that. And
immune system's already depressed.
Yeah.
Suppressed.
Yeah. And at that point, the hospital was like, we don't think she should go home. And so then we had to kind of figure out, okay, what does it look like to get some care for her? And we were really ignorant about what that help and support looked like, and really thought the options would be better than they were. So basically the option that ended up being the only viable solution was she moved in with us.
Okay.
Which I don't think was on any of the 3 of us' bingo card or wish list. That was not something that we
You're
had
dealing
planned
with that
on.
Transition that at this stage of our lives we're starting to happen. It hasn't happened to me yet, but we have friends that have, and this story is an example of that, where all of a sudden we're now adulting for our parents.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
I also have
crazy.
I have a teenager. So I am that, I remember reading about the sandwich generation, when I was, I think probably at Ball State, that there were going to be, that issue of caring for elder care and child care at the same time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's anybody who's lived through it will tell you it is, try to do that and have a job. And we were just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
how'd it go? I'm afraid to ask. I was like, do I ask this?
Yeah, I think it was, I think all 3 of us would say it was hard. It was she required a lot of care. None of us were neither of us, my husband or myself, we're not nursing professionals. Right. My husband's an IT professional. I'm a trainer. It's not really, a nursing skill set. So to have somebody in home who required a lot of care was a lot.
Yeah.
She stayed with us. She moved in, I believe, May 12th. and left the week before Thanksgiving. So she was with us for about 6 months.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So she got all the way through radiation, and then finally was able to start being more independent.
Yeah.
Okay. Is she living on her own now?
She does. She's still okay. Good. Like we still evaluate a lot. You know, we check in a lot. She still has a lot of trouble. I'm sure people who've experienced chemo know she got a lot of neuropathy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She already had some issues with her hands and mobility in her hands, just again because of age. She's got some arthritis and other things. So she still has a hard time like opening things and unscrewing lids. So about once a week or so, my husband goes over and opens a bunch of stuff for her, or like, you know, she needed the water filter changed in the fridge the other day because she couldn't get it unscrewed, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's fine. Like we're happy to go and help her with those kinds of things. But I think there's a clock, you know, there's a clock to how long she's going to be able to be at home.
Right.
And we'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
She lived nearby?
She does. She's about 10 minutes from us.
Okay.
So that's also helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've been very active. Well, let me go back. Your introduction to Heroes, was it through Kelly Canada?
Yeah. Okay. So I went to college with Kelly.
Right.
We were Alpha Chi's together at Ball State and have kept in touch with her over the years. And I think right when we moved back, I don't even know if you remember this, Vince, but there was a period where I was helping a little bit with the website.
I think I do remember that, yeah.
She reached out to me and was like, hey, we've got this thing and we need help. And I was like, I can try. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm technical enough to, like, be mildly proficient. I'm by no means an expert, but usually between myself and my husband, we can figure stuff out. So I was helping for a while before I got really busy with work, I know. So that was really when I started with Heroes. We started going to the gala regularly, and I've just continue to try to help efforts. It's such a great organization.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Most recently, though, I'm gonna touch on this. Come on, I don't. There's no photos. There
are photos. Yeah, there are photos.
We'll debate later after the episode if we want us to pop one up on the the screen. Chris would love to do that, I'm sure. But you've been involved with the Team Joey aspect of Heroes, and most recently, a party that we put on over at Peyton Manning Children's when we did the room unveiling as well.
Yes.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So you dressed up in character, because we often will do characters as part of the pizza parties and whatnot.
Yep.
As an adult who has now experienced that, and I think you've probably been to a couple, is my guess.
Oh, I've probably been to 5 or 6 of those over the years. Yeah.
How would you summarize that experience?
Well, first I would say when you get in the costume, it's really hot. So just know that and be prepared. Bring a fan. That's my first advice. If Kelly talks you into getting into a costume, be prepared for the heat factor. But it is such a gift to get to interact with families and kids who are going through really hard things. You know, like I have been so blessed with a son who's incredibly healthy. I don't take that for granted, especially when you spend any time at a children's hospital. Yeah. It makes you go home and hug your kid, right? And be grateful for that health. So to see kids walk in a room and be so excited to see you in a very hot, uncomfortable Minion costume, it makes it super worth it.
Yeah.
You know, they're so happy, and anything that puts a smile on their face, fine, dress me up in whatever you want to.
Well, and I think you just hit the nail on the head for 2 reasons. One, that's my experience with it.
Yeah.
I remember the very first time I went. It was not the first time we did it, I don't think, but that same reaction was like, holy crap! That I can't describe the feeling, but to know you're going in there and you're seeing these sick kids, but then all of a sudden they
they light up.
A switch is flipped.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool. And there's one. It's funny you mentioned the Minion, because you were dressed as the Minion, as a Minion, most recently. But this goes back a couple years. We had a Minion character as well with us, and we're going around room to room, and we walk in, and the child in the bed was already dressed up in Minion PJs and had that was a mask or something of those Minion goggle things.
Yeah.
Had him.
Gosh.
That was a boy or girl, I can't remember now, but didn't have them on, but they were next to him or her. The Minion character walks in, and I mean, it could not have been more perfect.
Yeah.
And the kid just freaking lit up. The parents were lit up. The mood in the room.
Yeah.
Just did a total 180.
Yeah.
They end up doing a picture, and they put the child put the Minion goggles on. We still have that picture somewhere, because you just look at it and you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, that's exactly why. And there was this last time. So there were 3 of us that dressed up as minions. And when we came out of like the dressing area to go up the elevator to the thing, and there was a little girl, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. I don't think you were there yet. I will have her face in my head forever, right? Like her face when she saw the 3 of us come out was just like, like she could not contain herself.
That's awesome.
And that's it. I mean, she had her IV stand and was in her hospital. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know very many people who wouldn't do whatever to make those kiddos smile. So
if that experience or showing that experience to someone when trying to sell what we do to them,
that's
and if that still doesn't resonate with them, then it's just not a good
it's just not for them. Yeah. If you can't have
they
empathy
may or may not
for
have
that,
something wrong with them, but that's okay. I won't go there.
I think that's right.
I'm biased.
That feels right. It feels right. Yeah.
Well, cool. So last question that I have, what about Beth Rashleigh do we not know? I mean, the CIA was a good one. I did not know that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Well, I guess the other thing I would just like throw out is that during the pandemic, I wrote a book.
That's right.
Which was kind of a crazy thing that happened just through a kind of strange series of events. But I was working with a lot of coaching clients that were struggling with, suddenly we shifted really into like a crisis mode in 2020. And what does leadership look like? Like, what do you have to do differently? And as I started to pull resources, like I just wasn't real happy with what I found. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think we need to think about this in a different way than we've been thinking about it before. Okay. So I ended up like starting to pull thoughts together, and it turned into a book and got published. And it was kind of a crazy,
and now you
crazy
put
thing.
Author.
I do. Yeah. I'm an author now.
That's very cool.
Yeah, which is cool.
So the name of the book is Crisis Proof Leadership. Still for sale.
Still for sale. You can get it on Amazon. Yep.
Perfect.
Barnes
Uncle
and Nobles.
Amazon.
There's the audio version if you're an audio person.
Okay.
Read by yours truly.
Oh,
so just
how was that experience?
It was awful. I thought that was going to be really fun.
Yeah.
It was awful because you have to read it word perfect. Like you have, and especially when you wrote it.
Yeah.
Do you know how easy it is to like
just flip through the words?
It was tough. I felt really bad.
Did you have someone there like coaching you to say, hey, you need to repeat that line?
Yeah, I had an audio engineer. I got really lucky. I got to decide how it was recorded. So I just happened to have a friend from high school that is a sound engineer.
Okay.
And I reached out to him and was like, hey, I got to do this audiobook. Would you want to help me? And he was like, I would love to, but I actually don't have time. But I've got this guy who does work for me that I think would be great.
Yeah.
And he just came to my house and turned my office into a studio basically. And he was, had headphones on and would be like, okay, I need you to try that one again. Or, let's back up to here. And
how long did it take you from start to finish to do the audio recording?
It was a long day. We did it in one day, though.
Oh,
we had planned to do it in 2, which I do honestly think would have been better. I was pretty fried by the end of it. It probably took us 6 hours or so.
Okay.
To get through it.
Are there a lot of pictures in the book?
No, there are no pictures.
Asking for a friend.
No, there are no pictures. But what I will say is I designed it with leaders in mind. So I think it's like 180 pages. You can read it in one
Every
sitting.
Fourth page is blank because by then our mind's gone off to something else.
And it's very like
note taking.
I did want it to feel like you were taking a leadership class. So it's like, okay, let's talk about this. Then there'll be a reflection to think about, or there'll be a tool to use. And I was really thoughtful about that piece of it. So I have heard from lots of people who've read it that it's number one, both really practical, and second, like it's not a hard read.
Right.
You can pick it up and
knock
it out pretty quickly. I don't know if you've read it yet.
You can read it. Here's your copy.
You can do it. I should have brought you one.
Just slide it right across the table.
I didn't think about it. Yeah.
Well, no, I think I had.
You might have one.
I'm gonna make a note and see if I don't, I know where I'll jump on this afternoon and buy one.
Yeah, you might have one because I did when we were doing pre-sales, I did give part of the pre-sales to Heroes.
You did. So thank you for that.
I know some people from Heroes bought it.
Have you seen a big disparity between people buying the physical book versus doing the audiobook?
No, I would say most of my sales come from the physical book.
Okay.
Which I was a little surprised about. I thought the audiobook, especially in the leadership space, I thought would be more appealing.
I'm a tangible person. Daniel hates well,
I
hate's
don't know how to read.
word.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's very annoyed
true.
that I still print stuff off
Yeah.
to read. Like if it's more than a couple paragraphs, honestly, I'd rather print it off and go.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So books, I gotta have the actual tangible book.
Yeah,
and I like
audiobook
hardback
person.
books more than I like soft.
Well, and so here's the sad: it's only in paperback.
It's
so
fine.
No
I mean, it won't prevent me
you.
from buying it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I audiobooks are for me. I don't know.
I'm
Can't
a
remember last time I
Kindle. I'm a
read a
Kindle
book.
girl too. So what I like about Kindle, especially if I'm reading like a nonfiction, like leadership type of book, is it has that like highlight and note feature, and then you can just go back and look at all your notes, and that's so helpful when it's something you want to like reference later.
Right.
So that's really become my preference.
I have a very bad problem of kind of like what you're saying. You start reading something, and then I'll get halfway through the page, and like my mind has drifted onto something completely else, and I have to reread this page.
Right.
Well, that's what happens to me with audiobooks.
Okay. Yeah. See,
like my mind will wander, especially if I'm like listening to one in the car. Like I'll get distracted by something, and then I'm like, "Well, crap! What was happening in my book?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
Hopefully people don't do that with our podcast, but you never know.
Yeah.
They would never.
Hey, welcome
They would
back.
Never.
Yeah. Pull them back in.
That's right.
All right. Well, cool. Hey, I just want to say thank you for all the things that you do for Heroes.
Oh, sure.
We appreciate your guys' support, and thanks for being here today.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
I learned something new.
That's great. That's
I like
always
it.
the goal, right?
Now I'm even more intrigued with what you really did at the CIA.
Yeah. I really promise I'm telling you the truth.
Well, if not, we'll just let her.
And I can pass a polygraph to prove it, because that's the other fun thing about working at the CIA. So.
Okay.
Next time she's on the show, we'll have the polygraph set up, and we'll see
Right.
Go ahead.
how that comes up.
God, that'll make me have flashbacks. Please don't do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you guys for joining us today on this episode of the Summits Podcast. So for those of you that are joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you happen to join us on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget, if you're on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell icon so you can be alerted when new episodes drop like this one. And don't forget, guys, beat cancer.